This is the Louie T Network.
Who else could it be? Me, your me, Louie T. Welcome to Lockdown Coverage week number 13 in the National Football League. Detroit Lions taking on the Baltimore Ravens. This Ravens team starting to come on at the right time of the year. And you know how I feel about Joe Flacco. And I told you that this, and I've been saying this for about now 3 weeks now, that there are a couple of dangerous teams, possibly three dangerous teams in the AFC if the Chargers continue to get their act together and are able to make the playoffs. The Ravens and the Jags right now are two teams that you don't want any part of in the AFC. And that goes for the upper tier teams in Pittsburgh and Baltimore and New England. I want no parts of Baltimore and Jacksonville because they can play defense, they can run the football, and more so Jacksonville getting after your quarterback, but the Ravens turn you over. They force turnovers, and they score off of those turnovers, whether it directly leads to points or indirectly leads to points. But they do a really good job of taking full advantage of turnovers, and they did it again. They did suffer a major blow to their playoff, not only their playoff hopes, but even if they make it doing anything once they get there, their cornerback, Jimmy Smith, who, you know, does draw the ire of some Ravens fans because of his inconsistent play, still the best they've got. And he's done for the season with an Achilles injury. And to add insult to injury, he also was suspended for PED usage. So whether he was healthy or not, he was going to have to sit out for a game. So that injury, it's going to hurt the Ravens in that secondary. But make no mistake about it. They create turnovers. They use those turnovers to create point-scoring opportunities. And they're clicking at the right time. Joe Flacco's starting to get into a little bit of a rhythm. The run game is slowly but surely coming along. Love Alex Collins. I've been singing his praises all season long. And I said before he entered the starting lineup, he's the best back you got. You got to feed him the rock more. And him and Buck Allen are becoming a nice little 1-2 punch in that Ravens backfield. And then you start to see Mike Wallace emerging as Flacco's favorite target to get the football to. If they can get anything out of Jeremy Maclin, that's a big plus. Benjamin Watson and that tight end group with Boyle, and now they're trying to get the football to Max Williams. They're starting to come to life. So they're starting to have a little something going in Baltimore. 44 points. I don't think I saw the Ravens scoring over 30 the remainder of the season, unless they had a turnover smorgasbord. And that's not what happened in this game. They turned Matthew Stafford over twice, and one did go for a touchdown at the very end on a Weddle pick six. But despite those two turnovers, this wasn't a defensive dominant game by the Ravens. It was just they actually moved the football on offense, and they were able to do some good things. Mike Wallace was able to get loose deep a couple of times, and they ran the football effectively, and they got in the end zone. And when they got down there, they weren't settling for field goals. They were getting in the end zone. And when they had to settle for field goals, it's always nice to know you've got just incredible there to kick a field goal and bang it home. And normally you can say the same thing for the Lions with Matt Prater, but that wasn't the case in this game. Matt Prater missed a field goal, and he missed an extra point. So he left some points out on the scoreboard, but it wouldn't have mattered in this game. The Ravens, they were on another level in this football game, and they jumped out to a 20-0 lead. The Lions scratched and clawed their way back to 20-13, and then the Ravens proceeded to score the next 24 out of 31 points in this football game as they were able to roll over the Detroit Lions 44-20. And I've said it all along. That's the one constant I've had with this Ravens football team. This defense was good enough to be a playoff team. And I didn't think that their offense would come around in enough time for them to get in, and I didn't think their defense would be able to do it on its own. Well, luckily enough for them, both of those predictions were wrong. They were false because the defense doesn't have to do it by itself anymore. The offense did come around in time, and now they have a shot at making the postseason, and I think they're going to get one of those wild cards sitting there at 7-5 right now with everyone else trailing in the wild card by just a game. But still, I look at that Ravens football team, and I expect them to find a way into the postseason when it's all said and done. So they're a dangerous team. We know about their history in the postseason on the road. Flacco has the highest amount of wins on the road in the postseason. So if he gets in, he's dangerous. Him and his head coach, John Harbaugh, have done damage once getting into the postseason since those two have connected as head coach and quarterback. So no one wants to see the Ravens. I can assure you of that. Whether they're the 6 seed, the 5 seed, no one wants any part of the Ravens because they're more than likely going to win that first playoff game, whomever they play. Whether that team is the Chargers, the Chiefs, the Raiders, or that team's the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Tennessee Titans. If they see the Titans again in Tennessee, the way the Titans are playing football right now, it wouldn't shock me if the Ravens went in there and beat them. Wouldn't shock me one bit. So Ravens starting to come along, and it's at the right time of the season. They couldn't have picked a better time to start playing some of their best football. Meanwhile, the Lions, they couldn't have picked the worst time to start playing their worst football of the season. They just can't get right. And even the games they've won of late haven't been convincing wins. They haven't been the type of wins you build confidence off of. Their win against the Browns, they were tied going into the fourth frame at 24 apiece before they ran away from the Browns 38-24. The week after that, they barely eked by the Chicago Bears because of a missed field goal late in that ball game that prompted the Bears to get rid of yet another kicker. So they were down in that game, and if not for a Mitchell Trubisky fumbled snap, they probably lose that football game, and it might not even be close. They were getting blown out early. They were able to rally back and steal that game from the Bears. Then Thanksgiving, they had a shot against Minnesota. Matthew Stafford was off. They lose that football game against the Vikings, and then they turn around, go on the road against the Baltimore Ravens, and they come out. And that's been the story, and I've talked about this with the Lions, coming out flat. They've started games horrifically. Okay, the Browns game, they were down early in that game before rallying and tying it up. They were down early against the Bears and were in danger of getting blown out had not Mitchell Trubisky fumbled that football. They were down against Minnesota early in that game on Thanksgiving Day. And they were down 20-0 at the halftime break of this game versus the Ravens. These slow starts are killing the Lions. They're rallying back in all of these games and giving themselves a chance. But it expends so much energy to come back in a ball game instead of just starting the game off well and giving yourself a chance to maybe take the lead and build the lead instead of having to come back and tear down the other team's lead and expending so much energy in the process that you don't have enough to get over the top when it's all said and done. So I'd like to see the Lions start fast, finish fast, instead of starting slow, trying to finish fast. So this Lions football team right now, the defense hasn't been good. Has not been good. That's an understatement. Everyone's been getting some of this Lions defense. And then the offense has been really inconsistent. Matthew Stafford is not playing his best football. They've got some injuries, but that's no excuse. They've got to play better, and if they're not going to play better, they're going to miss the postseason. And right now they're in danger. In a very tough NFC, they were in great position to try to strike. And all they needed to do was get one of those two games against those purple teams. One of the two. It didn't matter which one. You prefer Minnesota because that would have given you a shot at the division. But okay, fine, you don't beat them. Beat the other purple team. You can't lose to both of them, though. And they did. And so instead of being 7-5 right now with a great shot at still making the playoffs, you're sitting at 6-6 with a bunch of other teams on the outside looking in, and it's becoming increasingly harder for a 10-win team to get in the NFC with the way these other teams that are in the postseason right now, as it currently stands, is playing. It's going to be tough for a 6-6 team to run the table and then look up and get in to the postseason. So Lions making it tough on themselves by not playing quality defense. It sucks that Jamal Agnew got hurt when he did because you could use a pick-me-up on special teams, and the offense just isn't holding their own and carrying they're not shouldering the burden as they should. We know this is a defense that needs to come of age, and so you're going to have the offense give them a little bit of a boost and a shot in the arm at times, and I don't think the offense of the Detroit Lions currently is carrying the weight that they need to help this team win at this juncture of the season, and it's costing them ball games. Could have beat Minnesota had the offense been better, had specifically Matthew Stafford been better, but you don't. You leave points out on the scoreboard, you lose that game. Could have beaten the Ravens. Your kicker, Matt Prater, struggled. Offense, okay, not great. Defense, struggle. Against a Ravens team that has not been lighting up the scoreboard against most opponents. Well, they lit it up in this game. And so, Ravens are on the upward trajectory. Lions going in the opposite direction. And at this juncture of the season, there's no time for that. Ravens destroy the Detroit Lions 44-20, get to 7-5 on the season, and put themselves in a great spot to try to make the postseason in the AFC conference. Meanwhile, the Detroit Lions dropped to 6-6 and not looking too good for them. They're not out of it by any stretch of the imagination. They're going to need some help. Going to have to win some tiebreakers. But if they're looking to try to make the postseason, which is the goal of every team starting out the season, they're going to have to sweep the rest of their schedule, run that table, and then let the chips fall where they may. We'll see if they're capable of doing that. I don't trust them right now, but their schedule is so soft that I wouldn't put it past them to have a shot down the stretch come week 17 versus Green Bay. So let's get to some comments if there are any out there. Then we'll get out of here. John Niner says, are you doing the 49ers next? I think the Niners are two games away. So not next game, but the game after that. I think that's when I'm doing the Niners. So stay tuned for that. In any event, I'm just going to do it for Ravens and Lions. Ravens destroy the Lions at home, 44-20. Improved to 7-5 on the season. And I tell you right now, they're playing outstanding football. Are the Ravens? They're a scary team this time of the year. And don't look now. Here come the Baltimore Ravens. And pending what happens tonight on Monday Night Football, if somehow the Cincinnati Bengals are able to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, Ravens aren't out of that division race just yet. A win by the Bengals coupled by a win by the Ravens next week versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, and all of a sudden you got yourself a divisional race on your hands, folks. So don't count them out of that yet, but I don't see that happening. Steelers are too good of a team. They're the class of that division. They're going to win the AFC North division. But nonetheless, Ravens have a shot to give it a run if Cincinnati can take care of a little bit of family business tonight versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's going to do it for your man Louie T here on Lockdown Coverage. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on the Louie T Network. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything and everything in the National Football League. Got more breakdowns to come, so don't you go anywhere. Either you're watching Monday Night Football or you're watching Louie T Network. But where else would you rather be? I'll see you a little bit later on. Enjoy that game.